All right, so on this new lesson, we're not so concerned with, hopefully by now, with changing things into percents, decimals, and fractions. But if we look at this solving problems with percentages, we can always set them up using this proportion here at the bottom. And since we know how to solve proportions using the Fish method or cross multiplication, hopefully these turn out to be easy if we can just set them up correctly. So just to review, percentages involve part to whole relationships. If we use a percent in a proportion equation, we write the percent as a fraction out of 100. For example, 72% is 72 out of 100. In a percent proportion equation, we will always be looking to find one of the three possible missing pieces of information: the percent out of 100, the part, or the whole. All right, so there's two of three things that they have to give us: either the percent, radian, the part, which usually is represented or can be found with the word is, not always, but sometimes, and then the whole is usually after the word of. So we're looking for these differently in each problem. But if they give us a whole value or a total, that's the whole. If they gave us part of the whole, then that's the part. And if they gave us the percent, that should be pretty obvious because it will have the percent symbol after it. Now if we set this up right, again, we can use Fish method to solve this. So number one, radian. A survey reveals 252 out of 350 students in 7th grade like to read. What percent like to read? So again, I'm going to set this up. I got a proportion with the two ratios. One of them is a percent. And right here we can see that we don't know the percent that we have. So that is where the x is going to go, where the percent would have in that proportion. And then it says 252 out of 350 students. Remember, the word of is one of those key words. The number after the word of is usually the whole value, which means that 252 is part of that whole, and that goes in the numerator, radian. Well, this is set up for us to solve just like we would any other Fishy method proportion. So I've got my four values. I'll multiply, divide, and then equals. So running through this, I start with the x, I go down to my 100, come up to 252, swing that back down to 350, and I end on x. Good thing about this is this would be all the work I would need to show on a test, and then I just plug this into a calculator. Yeah, very good. So this was the decimal your calculator gave you, but we can't forget that this is a percent. So we should label this thing, okay? So what percent like to read? 83.3%. Repeating. Bam. All right, so let's take that back then. Yep, my calculator read that as well. So, 72%. Bam. Well, I want to address this as well. So in this proportion, the 100, hopefully it makes sense that 100% would be the whole, all of it, the whole thing, the total, okay? And the percent is always just a part out of it. So the part and the percent have to be in the same parts of the fractions or ratios. Let's say 72% of the students in 6th grade like to read, and we know that 252 students like to read. But we don't know how many students are in 6th grade. Now this one didn't give us any of those keywords, is or of, but it did give us the percent, which was extremely generous. So the percent we can see up in count was 72%. So there's our percent. And it's always out of 100. So we just got to figure out this 252 up in count. Is it the part or the whole? Well, it says that the 72% of the students in 6th grade, and that those people like to read, and that matches the 252 students that like to read. So the 72 and the 252 kind of match each other as parts of the whole value. So as it turns out on this one, we don't know the whole value. And that sets up for us right there. But we don't know how many students are in 6th grade. So that would be all of the 6th grade again. That's why that's in the denominator right there. So we can solve with these. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 values. Multiply, divide, and equals. And using the old fish method, I go up to the 252, down to the 100, up to 72, and then that equals my x. Yeah, and they set up differently as well, and we'll look at that with one of the other classes. But one thing about this is that the answer is not 350.
350 students.
There you go. Yep, this is a word problem, so don't forget to label this 350 students. Bam. All right, number 5, your best friend takes a math test with 40 problems. On it, she solved 75% of the problems correctly. How many problems did your friend get correct? All right. Well, once again, we'll set up our proportional. And 100 always goes right here. Then we'll have the percent, part, and the whole value. We'll just fill these in as we go. So on this one, it says your best friend takes a math test with 40 problems on it. That's the whole test right there. So that will replace the whole. All 40 questions on the test. We know that the friend got 75% of those questions correct, so that's our percentage. And the part then represents what we're trying to find, how many questions she got right on the test. X. So now we're just looking at the good old fishy method. 40 times 75 divided by 100. And we get, thank you, 30. But once again, yeah, it's not 30, it's 30 problems. 30 problems, 30 questions, however you want to write that. Neither of those words are super small to write, so 30 problem. All right, Serena got the same CD as Tony for $10.50 at another store. What percent did she get off? All right, so we do have to combine this with 7. Tony bought a CD on sale for $3 off the original price of $15. What percent was the CD marked down? Okay. So the $3 off represents the percent that it was marked down. So when we set up our proportional, look at these. We got our 100 right here. We don't know the percent because that's what we're looking for, what percent. We can see that the part is the $3 off. And the original price was $15. So that would be the whole original value. Now we could figure out how much they paid with that, right? Just $12, 15 minus 3. But we want the percent on it, these. So that would be 100
20%
times 3 divided by 15 is 20. But once again, we do need the label on that, 20%. All right, then what about 8? Serena got the same CD as Tony for $10.50 at another store. What percent did she get off? All right, so again, we're going to set this up. We got our
$15.
proportion. Yeah, so it was $15. We know that.
She also got us 20%.
Now, she paid $10.50. So how much money did we take off for her?
$5.50.
It's close.
$4.
Yeah, $4.50. Not the $3 that Tony got off. So she got a better deal. And again, we do want the percentage on it, these. So it's going to work the same way. 100 times 450 divided by 15. 30%. Now you can write 30% off if you want. We're okay with just the percent. Okay. The 450 came from the CD was originally $15, and Serena, right up in count, she bought it for $10.50. So we're going to take that off of the 15 to show how much money she saved. And then, yeah, you get $4.50 on that. Of course, the calculator will do that for you, but either way. Of all the 8th grade students, 60 walk to and from school. If 80% of the 8th graders walk to and from school, how many students are in 8th grade? So what is it that we're looking for? Are we looking for the percent, the part, or the whole on this?
The whole.
Yeah, the whole, because how many students are in 8th grade? That would be all of the 8th grade, okay? So that is the value we don't know. And it told us that it was 60 students walk to and from school. So that's the part. And then the percentage they gave us was 80. This is a very small 8th grade class. So solving at these, again, fish method, would go up to the 60, multiply that by 100, divide that by 80, and this equals x. So, thank you. So this is 75 students, or 8th graders. Bam. All right, 72% of students in 8th grade like to read, and there are 350 students in 8th grade. How many students in 8th grade like to read? So we're going to set this proportion up. 2 fraction lines and an equal sign, 2 ratios that are equal. Now this 100 always goes right account. Now remember, the percent is going to go above the 100. Then we're going to have the part and the whole. We just got to figure out what each of these be. Now right up here, it says 72% of the students. That sounds like a percentage to me. So I'm going to replace that with the 72 that it told us in 8th grade like to read. And there are 350 students in 8th grade. So that's all of the 8th grade, which means it's a whole value. So I'm going to replace that whole value with all the kids in 8th grade, 350. The part appears to be what we're looking for. And it makes sense, hopefully, because it says how many students in 8th grade like to read. That's only part of the 8th grade, which is an unknown for us right now. So we do need to use good old fish method on these. Multiply, divide, and equals. And then we'll do x. We go down to the 350, come up to the 72, swing that back down to the 100, and come up back to the x. So in at these, x equals, is it 252?
Yeah.
Bam. 252. But remember, 252 is not the answer. 252 students. If you want to be very specific, you'd say like to read. But we're good. Yeah, in 8th grade, yeah. That's your answer. You are taking a math test and you get 32 problems correct on the test. Your grade is 80%. How many problems were on the test? So we're going to set this up once again. 2 ratios that are equals with 100 right here. The percent goes right here. Then we got the part. And finally the whole. So we'll fill in the percent with the percent that it gave us, 80%. Now it says 32 problems correct on the test. That's only part of the test. So that's not the whole test. So that's where we're going to put that 32 right here. Which means we want to figure out how many problems were actually on the test. Which is what it says, how many problems were on the test. That's where our x is. So we got 4 values. 1, 2, 3, 4. Multiply, divide, equals. And again, using the same strategy, fish method, 32 times 100 divided by good old 80 is our x. 40 problems on the test. Another friend gets 36 out of 40 problems correct. What percent did this friend solve correct? All right. So setting these up, we got the 100. This one's nice because we know it's not it's the percent that we don't know. Now, in this test, there were 36 problems. That's part of it. Out of the 40 problems, that's the whole test. I'll make that a different color. Yeah, so 100 times 36 divided by 40. So 100 times 36 divided by 40, 90? Thank you. So this person got 90% correct. Good job. Eddie bought a book of sports stories. It was 25% off the original price of $15. How much did he pay? Okay. So you're going to see something like this not only on the test but the homework as well. So we see that it was 25% off. And the original price is $15. So we got to figure out how much the discount is. So doing it these, we got a 15 times 25 divided by 100. And that equals, all right, 3.75. But this is not the answer because it asks how much he paid. Oh yeah, so even the dollars on this is not the right answer. So this is how much was off of the original price. So we got to go back and look. It was $15 original.
$11.25.
But then we got to take the discount off. $3.75.
Yo, Christian. Yeah.
So yeah, what did we get on that? $11.25. So this is how much Eddie paid for the book of sports stories. All right, let's set this proportion up.
Mr. Sal, do you remember 5?
There are 75 students in the 8th grade. That's all of the 8th grade, by the way. So that's the whole value. 45 of those go to music class. That's part of 45. The rest of the students have art. What percent have art? What percent have music? So this one, the 45 was for music, so we'll identify these. And we'll figure out the percent on these. So using Fishy method, this is just for the music percent. Then would have 100 times 45 divided by 75. You guys said it was 60? So for music, that would be 60%. Well, 60% go to music, then what percent go to art? 40, right? Because it has to equal 100%. So art will equal 40%. And if we add those two up, we do get the 100%. Of course, you could reset up another proportion, but no need if we just subtract it out of the 100%. All right, consider the following situations. Elias has 28 marble, 7 are red, and the rest are an evil color. Calvin has 64 marbles with 16 red, and the rest are evil as well. What percent of Elias' marbles are red? So Elias, we can see up in here. And again, we are setting this up the same way, using the proportion with 100 right here. Now we want to know the percent on this, so we don't know that percent. But we can see that 7 of the marbles are red out of 28. So when we solve these, we will have the percent. And solving it would be 100 times the 7 divided by 28. Bam, 25%.
Could you just figure it out if you thought, because...
Yeah, I guess we have to specify that on this one. So this is just specifically for Calvin. No, that's not Calvin. What the heck? Yes, thank you. That is Elias. Or Eli. So it looks like we do need to do this for old Calvin. The nice thing about this, we can use the same proportion. Again, we're just changing the 7 and the 28. So Calvin, for example, had 16 reds out of 64 marbles. But the nice thing about this is when we do it, again, this would be 100 times 16 divided by 64, which is still 25%. So it's 25% for Elias and also good old Calvin. If they pool their marbles, what percentage will be red?
25.
Yeah, it should still be 25. Let's just look at the setup real quick. So you still have 100, and we don't know the percent. So the total marbles would be 7 and 16 reds. which is 23. And then the total number of marbles, 28, and 64 would be 12, carry the 1, 92. But again, if we do the work on this 100 times 23 divided by 92, we still get 25%. And hopefully this makes sense because both of them had 25%, so if we mix 25% with 25%, it's still going to be 25%. Yeah. Now, if one of them had more or less percentage, then we know it should change on that. But since it's the same, it should be good. See, what is the ratio of red to other marbles for Elias? What is the ratio of red to others for Calvin? So let's look at old Elias. Elias has 7 reds. 2. How many of the other color? Well, you do 28 minus the 7, which is 21. So 21 reds to the other color. And then we got old Calvin, who has 16 reds. So out of 64 marbles for the other color, so that's reds, the other color would be 64 minus 16.
It's 48.
Thank you, 48. 48 of the other color, which is so evil we won't even write it down. If they pull their marbles, what is the ratio of red to the other color? So again, we're looking at combining the reds, 7 and 16, which was 23. And then, that would be reds. The other color, 21 and 48, would be 69er of the others. Bam, there's our ratio. 13, Sarah has 50 marbles, 5 red, and the rest are an evil color. Ginger has 100 marbles with 20 reds and the rest being that other evil color. What percent of Sarah's are red and what percent of Ginger's are red? So on at these, let's look at Sarah first. Sarah has 50 marbles total and 5 of them is red. Now we could use the proportion like we did on 12, but we could divide this and find the decimal and then change that to a percent as well, because that's what it wants, a percent. 5 divided by 50 is 0.1, which as a percent is 10%. Now we got Ginger, who has 100 marbles as well, but Ginger has 20 reds. So again, we could divide this, find the decimal, which is 0.2, which as a percent is 20%. So if we pull their marbles together, how much percentage will be red? Alright, so let's look at these. Together, they would have 150 marbles. Sarah had 5 and Ginger had 20, so that's a total of 25 reds. So what percentage? We can divide at these. So this would be 0.16 repeat. If I put it in a calculator. And this, then, as a percent, would be 16.6 repeating percent reds. What is the ratio of red to other marbles for Sarah? Well, Sarah, as her ratio, this is for Sarah. Sarah had red marbles, 5 of them. Now that's 50 total marbles, so the other ones, there would have been 45 total other marbles. And yeah, we could simplify that to be 1/9. If we wanted to. Then we got Ginger as well. But Ginger had 20 marbles, red, out of 100, so the others, there would have been 80 total others. And this one would simplify to 1/4. Now, if they pull their marbles, what is the ratio of red to the other color? So 5 and 20, we still got 25 total red. And then if we combine the others, 80 and 45, 125. Which again, if we simplify, would be 1/5. Bam.